Attention everybody, the views and opinions expressed on this show are not necessarily those of Axe Ministry, Axe Media Group, and or their affiliate and subordinate ministries, and or nonprofits. Then I let the music play a little bit. And then...
Oh, there's live.
And that's when I'm posting to Facebook.
Good morning! Coming to you live from Axe Media Group headquarters here in beautiful Springfield, Missouri. It's The Morning Drive with Matt and Jay. We're their hosts, Matt and Jay. And Jeff with a G.
Hey, good morning.
Need your life so I can live, so I can give myself to you. It's nothing short of a miracle. Today's topic of conversation, always try to do better. And that should apply in all aspects of life. Anyways, let me go ahead and... All right, good morning, everybody.
With us.
And welcome to the party. My name is Matt and...
My name is Jay.
I'm Jeff with a G.
I said, my name is Matt
Well
and
done,
Jay.
Matt.
Yeah.
Got a little tongue-tied there.
I did. I got a little
Well, you
bit
know,
of...
how many shows were produced here at Axe Media Group yesterday?
1, 2, 3, 4, 5.
5
5.
hours?
Yeah.
Wow.
It's 5 hours worth of programming.
Yeah. And so the number one thing you can do to help us here at Axe Media Group is watch the shows, right? You see them you see them come up on Facebook, watch. And you can go to Axe Media Group on Facebook, on YouTube, and see all of the new content. We have new people producing new material, very interesting people. I've met them. And that's the way you can support us, expand our audience.
So today we're going to be talking about how to always try to do better. You know, that's in anything that we do, we probably should always try to do better in life. Not just at the stuff that we do, but as far as like our Christian walk. There's always room for improvement.
Oh, yeah.
That doesn't mean be real hard on yourself and say I'm never good enough. You know what I mean? Just saying always strive.
You always want to go for the 100 liters.
The 100 liters.
The 100 liters.
Not
and
the
then you
70.
put something heavy on it.
You put something heavy on it. Then that's how you squash it down.
Yeah.
That was two inside jokes at once that, Jeff's
Over my
like,
head.
Yes.
Jeff's like, what?
You guys are cousins. I'm an outsider.
You are an outsider. Look at you, Jeff, fitting right in, too.
I ain't from these parts.
Ain't from
Hey,
these parts.
Our roots go back to where you're from anyway.
Yo.
I mean, it's Boston, which is, New York is there.
Boston is, New Jersey is like Boston light.
New York, Boston.
Yes.
Close.
Although it's the other way around. It's
Uh-huh.
Boston, New York.
I don't know. Maybe, yeah. Oh, historically, I guess. Plymouth Rock.
Plymouth. Yo, we got it.
We didn't land on Plymouth Rock.
The tragic wagon wheel layout. They need to do better.
AC on.
Hey, man.
Aren't they trying to redo that?
Gosh, I don't know the wagon wheel.
The wagon wheel is the epicenter of Boston, the Cape, where the ports and stuff are, right? Is the center. And so then they have what are like spokes, like a wagon wheel that come away from the ports.
Ah.
And then they have crossroads that go in a circle like a wagon wheel. So it's like a wagon wheel, but it's just a tragic traffic mess.
That's why Boston's such a mess?
Yeah, because all of your traffic is coming into the epicenter, and it's condensed more and more into one point.
Is that kind of like the all roads lead to Rome kind of deal?
Sort of.
But
Yeah.
not
Sort of
really.
like that.
I know, because driving in Boston is much worse than driving in New York City.
It was necessary then.
Most
but
people
now-
walk in Manhattan, right? A lot of people walk in Manhattan or take cabs.
Yeah, you have to have bumpers to walk in Manhattan.
Manhattan
slow.
is phenomenal. I drove in Manhattan. I thought it was so interesting. I was in the far left lane. It's 5 lanes.
Of course.
So I'm in the far left lane. I'm in the far left lane, and I'm supposed to be turning right. And I am at the intersection.
So
and I do not know Manhattan, and I'm thinking I do not want to go. So I stop. Traffic jams up behind me, and the whole intersection clears out. And I just turned right across 5 lanes with everybody honking at me.
That was gutsy, if not totally insane.
It was pretty insane, but I did not go where I didn't want to go. I went when I drove into Manhattan. I said I am not going anywhere I don't want to go.
Weird.
And so I didn't realize that's how it worked because everybody's changing lanes. Nobody's in a lane.
No.
So you stop and everybody's jammed. They're bumper to bumper in there and they can't get out.
Jockeying for position.
I got lucky too. I think there was a little luck.
Steve McAllister said it's Cindy Flowers' birthday today, but not sure.
And I don't recommend you do
on
that.
today.
I'm just saying that's
just
what I
stop in the middle of nowhere?
did. Yeah,
middle
and
of
then
everything?
driving by the Empire State Building.
Mhm.
I had no idea that the base of that building was an entire city block. It is massive.
Yeah, you
It-
don't.
You know, it's actually. I'm trying to think if it is a whole block. I guess it.
Sure looks like it.
Well, the street from 42nd to 41st Street is a whole block.
Right.
But from 5th Avenue to 6th Avenue, it's maybe half a block because those blocks are wider.
Are they?
Across Manhattan is basically twice as wide as going up and down.
You've got to see it. That's all I can tell you.
Been
I think
there.
I may have
You've
seen
got
it when
to
I
see
was
it.
at
Obviously, I've been there.
If you're one of our listeners and you have not been to Manhattan, you've got to see it. There's nothing like it. Well, that I've seen. And it's
No.
beautiful.
Yeah, it is true, and the view from there is incredible.
I didn't go up it. I didn't
It's
go
like
up
looking at a postage stamp of the city below you.
Yeah, it's so beautiful.
Yeah.
I was awestruck by the size of that building. I really was. I'm still awestruck by it.
Well, the Freedom Tower is bigger.
Yeah, I'm not. See, now
Totally.
that was not when I was there.
Mhm.
Let's see, that would have been somewhere around 2002. So the Freedom Building wasn't built yet.
Oh no.
Freedom Tower. Was that where the two towers stood?
Yeah, Twin Towers. Yeah.
Oh yeah, yeah. They actually, they made sure it was the right height to commemorate the Twin Towers, right? When they built it.
I'm not sure. I know it was basically the same height. I didn't know they went for the
I watched
exact height.
Well, I watched a documentary on them building it, and they made sure that it was the exact, like with the spire and everything, it came up to that because it's to commemorate. It was built on Ground Zero, so they're commemorating the
Right,
Twin
they didn't
Towers.
want to outdo what was there.
I actually worked in what they call the oh my gosh, it was the restaurant at the top of one of the Twin Towers. I was thinking Rainbow Room, but that's at Rockefeller Center. It was called. It's just slipped my mind. It's very famous.
That's interesting.
Eden
It
area,
slipped my mind.
and I had a brother-in-law who worked there, and I had a friend that was there. He overslept that on 9/11, so he didn't die because everyone who was up there, it was 200 people at a meeting. They all died.
Yeah.
And another friend who was off that day who worked up there at it has a name. It says like top of the world. Windows on the world or something like that.
Wow.
Yeah.
There was numerous people that there's usually way more people in than that. There's all kinds of stories coming from there, like somebody was stuck in traffic or their car broke down, things like that, and they weren't able to make
How
it in.
about those buildings, the engineering feat? And I'm sure now that there's been so many of those massive buildings built that there's principles that they apply. Because how do you get all of the supplies to the top floor restaurant, fresh truckloads of food every day? You know what I mean? That's that is an engineering feat. It's really something.
Yeah.
To be able to include all of those things that are necessary in making sure, because right there, that's the same as driving on a street right there. You know, you've got traffic, rush hours, all of that stuff has to be managed inside one of those buildings properly, or else it's a nightmare. It won't work.
Yeah. It was Windows on the World.
Was it? Wasn't
yeah.
Windows on the World?
Yeah.
Had you ever been there? To the
I
restaurant?
worked there.
You worked at the
That-
restaurant.
before 9/11. It was in the 80s. I worked there.
Did you ever get to go on the roof?
No, that was usually shut off. Rarely could you go actually up in the air.
In the
They
open?
had I think you were able to go to the roof at one time. Then they just sealed it off because of security issues and all that.
Yeah.
Yeah. Insurance
Yeah.
is a big deal.
Yeah.
Yeah, but they got up there again on 9/11. Some people got up there and they all died
Yep.
because
That's a shame.
helicopters couldn't land.
And that's what is today.
Yeah, my gosh.
Tomorrow is 9/11.
Wow.
Ah, that reminds me.
That's
Happy
amazing.
birthday, Tanner Gibbs. Today he is 18 years old.
Let's always do better.
Let's always do
You know?
better.
Amen.
You think about the difference between 9/12
Mhm.
and the unity in the country to today.
Yeah, no kidding.
Oh,
Because I mean, right after 9/11, you know, that brought us. They tried to bring us down, but that actually brought the entire nation closer together. As far as like
In a way.
in a way,
But I'm looking forward to the changes that are coming. I think that for me, it's essential to not just be ignorant of what it really is that's coming against us. You know what I mean? We want to just say, well, here's the line, and you're on that side of it. You know?
yeah,
I want to listen. I want to play that, that Red Rover game.
mm-hmm.
You know what I mean? I want to play the Red Rover game and win. And I want to see them come over and that we can join together and be a part of something that's important. Because I don't think that what they're saying is we're just going to burn it down, though there are some. I think the masses involved are there to say, listen, we need this change or else. You know? And if we're not listening to what the change and the demand is for them, then it's inevitable that we will be fighting them for who knows how long, if not forever.
wow.
And we don't want that within
By
us.
masses, what do you mean? To whom are you referring?
The masses of the people who are actually in the streets doing the peaceful protests and the peaceful marches. There's a reason they're out there and taking that higher risk. And if they're not wanting to, if they're not out there for the mayhem, and if they're just out there to be heard, what is it that they're trying to say? And I understand I don't approve of the looting and the burning and all that stuff. Would we be getting any closer to hearing and getting change where it's needed without it, though? So it's a conundrum in a way that you can't have it with it and you can't have it without it. Am I making sense what I'm trying to say?
Yes, but it's also the ideal versus the reality, or contrasted with the reality. I remember I was a kid growing up during the '60s, and I was kind of on the back end of the hippie movement. And there was, I literally, as a little kid, my mom pointed it out. We were driving through the city where we were going through Columbia University. I saw Abby Hoffman leading demonstrations at Columbia University, and they were fighting to get out of Vietnam. And Martin Luther King was leading the civil rights movement. Malcolm X was leading it in a more aggressive
Do you
way.
think back then they supported communism? Because Vietnam, even though we lost it, it did stop the spread of communism, which was spreading pretty quickly at the time.
Vietnam, yeah. I was just going to say the other major issue back then was feminism, the women's movement.
Yeah.
I would say those are three major points of protest for young people, which is, again, young people have youthful enthusiasm. They say, youth is wasted on the youth, but there are reasons that are positive reasons that may seem a little over-aggressive.
They can endure
and
more.
Oftentimes do become over-aggressive. And, and obviously the 60s, let's just love each other, peace next with a flower power became grossly indulgent communal living.
Yeah.
And the civil rights movement morphed into this politically. It was kind of in the city. You might say
Morphed into a vengeance.
bogarted or taken over by ancillary movements that.
What's ancillary?
Outside, ones that are loosely related, can be loosely connected, to where the things that were accomplished in the civil rights movement have been more taken over by the gay rights movement.
You seem uncomfortable about this. So when you were there,
Well, the identity
in the middle of it, what was the tension like there? What was it?
You mean the hippie movement?
Was there a tension and a hope and how much was
Well-
going on? Is it very
Well, for example, I was a little kid.
parallel to our time?
Yeah, my mom had us all sit down and watch the "I Have a Dream" speech, with Martin Luther King, and Mom was a real bleeding heart. She was a wannabe Mother Teresa, and she started the Head Start program that she'd drag us up to there all the time, and for racially mixed po folk, and just gave us a love for them. Even though I grew up in a country club, but she gave us a love and an appreciation for people with differences, no matter what the differences were. So what? So she was very, very emotional.
You think she was oversympathetic?
Oh, no, she wasn't, because I mean,
See, I'm not wanting to
she
go.
put her.
We've got to learn from the past, but also we don't learn from the past unless we take what we learn and apply it to the present.
Well, and those were legitimate concerns. I mean, you're talking about being able to eat in restaurants with other people. You're talking about being able to use the same bathrooms, the same water fountains. It was such obvious, blatantly obvious racist issues that had to be addressed. Martin Luther King did it magnificently. Malcolm X was more aggressive, but interestingly, after he went to Mecca, he saw all the people of different races who shared the beliefs, the Muslim beliefs. He became much more less aggressive and more inclusive in his concerns about equal rights.
So you think his heart changed a little?
Oh yeah, for sure.
Do you think that's missing now in the example that's given of Malcolm X, that they only want to look at the militant racist part of him instead of seeing how he grew?
Well, it's the black rage issue, the quote unquote black rage. Although rage is an issue that stands on its own, we just label it, skinheads,
Yeah.
black rage. It's all different, but it's this anger. But the rage takes on, if it's not.
What's up, Matt?
Oh, nothing. No, this is Northwest Baptist stuff.
Ah.
Takes a life of its own. Rage it becomes its own worst enemy.
What would you say, considering, would you say there is a parallel, we are in a parallel time? Or would you say it's very different?
Yes, I believe we
and
are.
what would you say scriptures come to mind that when you looked back on the time that you experienced then, which was, and you didn't really, I don't know if we got to you seem tense when you talk about it in almost like a flashback
Well,
type way.
like for example, the women's rights. My mother was a college professor, and she got paid less money than men who came in after she did with less credentials and less impressive education pedigree. So it was obvious, and it was obvious to her, and she would explain to us.
So maybe in the extreme where we're going too far the other way. Now it's almost the other way around. But from what I hear statistically, it's actually opposite now. Not to the exaggerated extreme, but it is opposite. So a woman and a man with the same credentials, the woman will end up getting paid more now. And do you think that that's actually just setting us up for the same fight later on, that we're not learning from the past?
Well, it's also the issue of a hand up versus a hand out, and when is enough, and when does it become too much, to where you've overcompensated, where it's 1984, Animal Farm, and with an overthrow of the previous group that was in power, the type of tribalism. And the tribalism doesn't just have to be people from different clans. It can be people from different
Classes?
gender, different race, different whatever. Like in animal farms, you different types of animals.
Was there a point, or was there a point where you thought it was finished, where you said, we've really come to a conclusion on this, and our demands were met, and the world is a better place now because of it? Was there a point where you realized that to be true?
It's my personal opinion that we're getting better and better and better.
Yeah.
With warts and all, warts and all. They're, and the point is, no matter where you are, what you do,
That's what I
someone's
should
going to be
name the show
marginalized.
today.
Whether the
Warts and
person
all.
is fat or skinny, or the wrong race, the wrong religion. It's very easy for us to, build ourselves up at the expense of someone else, and it's easy to, in some ways of differentiating between people, are easier than others.
Is that an unwritten law? Is that, though, something that maybe God wrote into the fabric of our existence? Is that we all stand on the backs of those who came before us, and that if we don't, we digress?
Well, you can digress as a group, and you can progress as a group. And it's the same. It's individual and corporate. So they're two different. It's the same principle, but it goes. It concerns the individual, but it also concerns the group, the collective.
Something's got to change, though.
Something does have to change, and I can't help but think that in mass, when we talk about the larger issue, that most of the truly peaceful protesters are out protesting, and the people who are really upset and enraged about this, who aren't expressing rage in an aggressive or violent way, when you think about those being actually the majority of all of this, there's something there that we've got to hear. And that I happen to think, my personal belief in it is that if we can find a way to listen, as much as it may hurt and as much as we may disagree, we may find that gem inside the coal. You know what I mean? That is this ugly, dirty thing. There might be something that we're missing that's beautiful and important and worth our time and worth our effort and worth the change and focus that we can really
I don't know. Who's everybody, Steve?
move forward.
Where is everybody?
But and that's why I was asking about the past is, was there a moment where that gem came out, where the rioting stopped, where all of the aggression and the violence started to subside and recede, and that something came out of it? Or was it completely just squashed by the authorities? Or do you think we actually, because I know we've made progress in my lifetime towards these very issues they're talking about.
Well, obviously, the civil rights movement had magnificent results to a certain degree. They're measurable positive results for African Americans, especially. The issues I addressed. Obviously, the feminist movement moved towards giving women more equal pay and equal opportunities professionally. You can see that
it goes
in
too
statistics.
far in man-hating. But when when man-hating is attached to feminism, that's a negative thing.
Right, that's taken
But
to
what
an
I
extreme.
see when I see the description of a feminist, minus the man-hating, I see almost a parallel description of a virtuous woman.
Oh, absolutely.
A woman
Absolutely.
who's independent. When I read the Word of God that tells me what a virtuous woman is and what a man should look for in a woman, I see a description of a woman who doesn't need anybody.
Right.
You know what I mean? Who's perfectly independent and strong and capable and not lacking anything on her own.
But, in my opinion, the feminism went a little bit off the rails when they tried to present women as being the exact same as men.
Right. Okay. I see.
And again, I hesitated these things because people have such strong opinions about these. I don't want to sound like a know-it-all who don't know nothing, or just thinks I know more than I do. But in my opinion, God made women listen, I'm raised by a developmental psychologist. We talk about this all the time. I have a special ed degree. I'm just going to say it. God made women as nurturers and men as hunters and gatherers in general.
Yeah.
And and so that's where the hearts are. That doesn't mean that women don't, as nurturers, become phenomenal leaders.
And one of the things that so I think that if a woman decides that she wants to stay home and be a homemaker, that is not a bad thing.
And that's not the only
But it's
way
the
they can
woman's
nurture.
choice, right? Absolutely. But today's feminist movement they put down women who make that choice to stay home and take care of the home.
I met a woman at work yesterday who said her husband told her to quit her job. She didn't have to work anymore. They were doing fine. They didn't need her to work, and he wanted her to stay home and raise the kids if that's what she wanted to do. And she said, I'm good with that. And now she's at home taking care of her children in her home and is very pleased to be doing it.
I use my mom as an example.
And her husband, the description she gave of
Yeah.
her husband was that he's very pleased to be doing it that way as well.
Yeah, no, it's fine. But yeah, you're a team and you play tag team. And what if
It's about survival.
Yeah,
It's about helping each other out.
Absolutely.
Taking what you can bring to the table as a quality, no matter what it looks like. Saying, if I have this to bring to the table, I'm bringing it. Because together, if I bring what I have, my quality, and you bring yours, we'll be better together than apart. You
Got
know?
it.
And I think that's
Was an interesting contrast with my wife and I, my wife and me. She had phenomenal job opportunities that she would do, and she would get paid astronomical amount of money to train doctors how to talk to people. And she would go to their doctors' conventions. They would fly her all over the world to do this. But when we had our daughter Helena, we adopted her from Nepal, and I would, we get a baby. I'd be going. I have to drop my wife off at the airport on my way to work in the city, and she just consistently would get these phantom illnesses where she could not get on the plane, and I have to literally go back to the airport and pick her up. And then by the time I got home, and she kicked out the babysitter, which is like maybe my mom, or she all of a sudden she said, I'm feeling a little bit better.
Right.
And so she'd hold Helena in her hands, and Helena cuddle up to her. Unlike the tears that she saw with Helena when she had left the house,
right.
and she was happy. That was she was in her lane. But with my mother, for example, my sisters sometimes, my brother and I, we're typical boys. We like our independence. Again, I'm talking about stereotypes, but that's what we say. But my sisters, who are also very strong, happy, smart, everything, they felt sometimes they were a little bit neglected by mom, because she was out there going to her college teaching job, going to the Head Start program, and sometimes she wouldn't take us. We'd have other things, and sometimes they felt like they were being neglected. They needed more. They needed more of mom, and of course I did want my mom to come up to more of my baseball games, or whatever things I was doing. But she was out there nurturing other people. But it's just life is a challenge, and it's
So true.
but you have to go
So
back to
true.
basics. Love the Lord thy God with all thy heart and all thy mind, and love thy neighbor as thyself. And start from there. And
the neighbor includes family, friends,
exactly.
enemies.
Charity begins in the home. And I don't think that's exactly scripture, but it's scripturally based.
What I think of, and I wish I had the exact scripture, and I think it's Ecclesiastes, and I read it recently. That's why it's so stuck in my head, is when God told the prophet, he said, "Why is my city Jerusalem full of people who are not my people?" And then he described the people he was talking about, and they were lifestyle, or you know how there's a word that describes you.
Mm-hmm.
So he described the eunuch, and the house, the servant, and so he described the people not by race but by who they were, by what, so that you could, you know what I mean? And he said, "Why are these not my people? Why are you not teaching them of me? Why are they not my children?" Because he was pointing out to his own people, who he loved, that there was somebody that they were leaving outside of the group, that they were excluding from his family. Meanwhile, they're inside his own city, living there, and don't even know who he is. And so I look at that as something that shows to me that for God, and from his perspective, is that it's not any different now than it was then. That we as human beings in our nature will exclude people, and that it is not his will to do that. That his will is that we teach everyone of him, and that we all are his children. That we all love and worship and honor him. We obey his word as true and as good. Whether it goes against our own will or not, if we obey it and follow him and love him and worship him like he's worthy of, then we are his children. And I see that from God's perspective, he doesn't see us as races. He sees us as people. And he sees us as what we invest our life in is valuable to him.
Yeah.
But see, racism is a symptom, though. It's not the main thing. It's a symptom.
It's a symptom of hate.
Yeah, and God
think it's
forbid
a
I should say it, inverse racism.
Seeing people as different, as
Yeah.
less as it's putting a number on somebody, like a value, rating somebody from 1 to 10.
And the response. What's the response of Martin Luther King? It's peaceful demonstrations that were fully peaceful.
And words that spoke truth that are still spoken.
Now, obviously, there were riots. There were riots, no doubt. Watts and Newark and Camden, and
Do you think we would have had the progress without them, though?
that
I'm not saying they're good or justifying them. I'm saying that they, like you just said, something is a symptom. So that is a symptom of an
Right.
illness, that the sin that causes the illness
yeah, I mean,
gets the source.
right. It was a venting of frustration. But what happens is obviously wars. Everybody thinks that they're right on their own side.
And probably are in some way.
Well, there's no doubt that everybody, we are sinners. We are all in jeopardy of hellfire and damnation apart from Christ our Lord. So we have to look at ourselves first, look
Yeah.
at our group first, look at our family first, and then go from there.
Just hand people a little broom, and I say, "What's that for?" That's for you to clean off your own front porch before you start trying to tell me to clean my house.
Mhm.
Yeah.
Now, that's a pretty interesting expression, but it's true. It also talks about, how can you help your brother, offer to help your brother to remove a speck from his eye whenever you haven't yet removed the board in your own.
Yeah. and
I may be off topic here. I've got like 10 things.
No,
going
you're
on.
exactly right, and that's what
No,
I'm
you're
trying
right
to
there.
say
You're-
is
you're
that
on the
for
money.
myself, when it comes to politics, and we start naming things and using words and phrases to lock somebody down into a description where they are so rough around the edges that they really don't fit there, and nobody does. It's like and I found myself watching preferred news outlets, and even though I do disagree with others, I started to realize, that some of these things went too far. And for me to affiliate with them and say, this is who I am, I watch this and I agree with this, really put me in a box that I didn't fit in. Like build the wall. I understand we need to stop illegal immigration. But we also have a country that people want to come to because of what we have here. And they want to leave behind their own home. And I say to anybody, I left the Northeast, right? And I came here. I didn't have anything really much to leave behind, though. I was an individual, but when I now that I have a family here, children who live here, I've thought of moving, but I don't. I guess what I'm trying to say is, what would bring a person to send their children somewhere so far away without them? What would bring a person to just leave everything behind, their family, their
Hope
home,
for
and
a
everything?
brighter future.
But what are the conditions there? These are our neighbors.
Yeah, that's true.
Are we loving them by making what we have here so good that they want to come here? Or are we loving them by helping them, or should we be loving them by helping them make what they have there better? We detain all these illegal immigrants at the border. No civics training, no teaching of our Constitution, no teaching of our economics, no teaching of any of the things that make our country something they want to come to. So they come here and change our country instead of coming here and becoming a part of it. You see what I mean? And then when they're sent home, they're not equipped with anything that they need to go home and make the changes there that would make their home a place they want to stay. So I don't know. I don't like these boxes that we get put in, and I think we can do a lot better than that. And I don't like how politicians feed us the topic and the solution instead of listening to us for what it is that we really want. I want good neighbors, and that means our countries, both to the north and the south, and then from there to the east and the west. I want good neighbors. I believe in our country, and I believe in liberty, and I believe in freedom, and I believe in our Constitution, and obviously other people do too, because I think, aren't we the place everybody wants to immigrate to?
Amen.
Most people. So why is that? We need to be promoting and spreading what it is we have here, so we can have better neighbors, so that our neighbors and the nations next to us and across the globe can have what it is that we have there at home,
Yeah.
and want to stay at home. Because I want to stay at home. I don't want to be separated from my family and my loved ones and leave it all behind because it's not worth that.
This kind of addresses that comment that Jim had sent me a couple days ago. Said he has numerous people saying, I'm an American citizen and I'd rather live somewhere else.
Yeah.
He said it's been on both sides, both liberal and conservative, Democrat, Republicans, all and Christians saying, I'm an American citizen and I would rather live somewhere else right now.
Yeah.
So it kind of addresses that situation. You're right about that. We need to find out what is causing these countries to be a place where their own people don't want to stay.
Yeah.
We also need to figure that out about our country. I mean, it's pretty much, the
I know what makes me have a reaction of I want to get out.
people are taking
It's
God
usually
out of
violence
everything.
and
That's the
threat.
number one problem I see, is people are taking God away from everything.
Well, people. I mean, obviously,
Yeah.
some people who come from other countries they're drawn to their home country oftentimes because of family and friends who they left. Now, people who grew up here, born and raised, one, two, three, several generations, whatever, the primary reason why they would move out of the United States is for economic reasons and
Yeah.
tax benefits, different opportunities. So the fact is that this is the land of opportunity still.
Yeah.
My great grandfather, Irish people, they have kids late, especially the males. I think it was my great grandfather, literally. He stowed away in a steamer, and he got off that steamer, and he signed up for the Union Army, and he went straight to Gettysburg, and he became an instant citizen because he
Fought on behalf of the country.
when he joined the Army, they made him a citizen, which is just a kind of popped in my head. That's an interesting. Isn't that interesting? Well, if
Coming here and then immediately fighting for the country.
yeah, fighting for the country, be getting a government job that the country needs, because they talk about bringing over people who are ready to contribute, but you don't necessarily have to contribute just by being a nuclear scientist, trained in the best engineering school in India.
Yeah, I think part of the problem is that our politicians, they run and they fish. So they throw all these things out there and seeing what we bite on, what causes the most response, what they get the most response of. And they build their case, they build their slogans and everything around that, whatever people respond most to. But it is fishing, because what does a fish get out of a hook? Nothing. Death. They are not choosing topics that are good. They're choosing topics that are that are the most motivational. They're not listening to us about what we think. And their solutions are not solutions that we would come up with if we were to really think about what is the best way to handle this issue.
Like, what do you mean, for example?
Well, I mean, like building the wall. Yes, build the wall. I get it. But that's not a solution to, you're stopping people who are highly motivated to leave their own home and their families.
And how about looting and killing people?
Right. So the real solution isn't a wall, because people go over them, they go under them, they go through them. If they really are that motivated to get to the wall to begin with, you know what I mean? We have to help them where they are. And I'm not saying nation build, but we need to teach them what it is about our country that is so great, that makes it the land of opportunity, and educate them. We have them here at our border. They're incarcerated there at our border. Why not require a class that equips them to go home and make the changes necessary to make
That's kind of like
to make it a better place?
That's kind of like whenever you're teaching your kids something, or telling them that they shouldn't do something, they can't do something, or not to do something rather. But instead of just telling them don't do that, you explain to them why, and then it becomes their decision to not do it or to do it.
They're equipped with the knowledge.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Exactly.
How do we try to do better?
How do we try to do better?
I think that we should be telling the politicians, not the other way around, what the solution is.
What do we do individually?
We've got to love our neighbor.
Amen.
Yep.
With a pure heart, not with a patronizing, condescending.
Regardless.
Give them of our time and our wealth and
Of
what
race,
else.
color,
I mean, there's a
creed.
whole list of things.
And see them as Christ sees them.
Yeah.
And, yep. Yeah.
As
By
a-
God's
As
grace.
worth enough to die for.
As
Amen.
as a glowing light
and see ourselves as
That
God
he made.
sees us.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah.
So
Sinners saved. Amen. It's a
About time for us to
heavy,
get out.
heavy story today.
it was
Well, I'm
good.
saying we can do better, and I think pretty easily.
Yeah.
You know, we could easily do better than what we're doing.
Amen.
What is that Japanese motto?
Kaizen means to continuously improve. That's how they took over the automotive market here in the U.S. They lowered their tolerances to 1/10 of what ours were. And they committed every day when they were doing those exercises. Remember, it was a big thing. They were showing all the Japanese people exercising in a room before they went. Well, that thing they were saying was Kaizen, continuous improvement. So they worked out. They got their blood pumping. They woke up. They were there together chanting a mantra of to continually improve and meaning it as a mass, you know, as a group. And they would go to their workstation and they would continuously improve where they were working. And they took over our market.
Well, that being said, good show today, guys. I'd like to thank everybody for joining us on the morning drive today. We'll be back on tomorrow, same time, same channel. Be sure and tune in next for A Penny for Your Thoughts with Susan Abar and friends. Don't want to miss it. It's a great Bible study. So until then, my friends, God bless you and keep you. We love you. We'll continue to do better. You continue to do better.
By God's
Till then.
grace.
Yes.
My name is Matt,
My name is Jay.
Jeff with a J.
and this has been
The Morning Drive. Hey, you got